Bengals get a much-needed victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up on the Orange is the New Black podcast.
Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Orange is the New Black podcast. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, joined by my co-host, Zim. Zim, say what's up.
Hello, world. How y'all feeling this evening? We are back. We're better than ever. And the weight of the world is lifted off of a whole fan base's shoulders, along with my voice. So bear with me tonight, people.
It's going to be like that this season, though. Get used to Zim's voice being going a lot this season.
I can't stop.
It's going to be like that.
My mom texted me during the game. We were in the live stream, and she was like, "Man, you make sure you drink some tea and stuff like that, because I know you're yelling, Zim, but here I am."
Nah, that's what moms are for. They supposed to look out and give us that support and that advice. And we're gonna be drinking a lot of tea this season. That's all I'm gonna say. It's gonna be a lot of tea going out this season, but obviously 24-10. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about 24-10. The Bengals get a much-needed win in Hines. From my opinion, for the most part, they dominated the game. Was everything perfect? No. Obviously, there were some miscues here and there. But when you look at the overall game, in my opinion, I think that it's a huge statement into the changing of the guard of the division in terms of the Bengals finally getting over that hump that was the Steelers. And I think that they showed signs of a completely different team today, whether it was, getting up on them and being aggressive, whether it was not being scared of them at all, playing more disciplined, not really participating in any of, the physicalness or the arguing, not letting them bait them into any of that stuff, and just really going out and handling business. I think that this Bengals team, a lot of people were sleeping on them. Now they're at 2-1. I don't think that you can use that excuse for the same old Bengals. And, it is early, but I think this team is just different, bro. I think a lot of people look at some of the issues that they've had in the past, some of the ways that they folded to the Steelers, some of the issues that they had, and people try to pinpoint all kind of certain things. I'm just pinpointing W's, bro, and it's just like that for me, honestly. Like, I can talk about a lot of things, but that's just my overall takeaway from this game. Zim, let me get your overall takeaway, and then we can dive into more of the details about this game.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying everything that, I felt is – I will say this from this standpoint. I said before the season started, I feel like this is our year to have fun. I feel like last year was the Browns' year to have fun. If they're going to win it all and go crazy, they got to go win it this year right now. For us, this is like our fun year, getting our confidence, knowing that we could win these games. Coming into the game, in the back of my mind, I always said it was a victory. They were calling me Zimstradamus today, and I'm going to run with it. I never thought for a second when I woke up, I never felt no type of anything. And I don't know if that's just a product of all the hard work this all season or just like me just being more confident in myself. I don't know. I'm just feeling way better about the team this year, despite some of the different things that we could talk about like later on with coaching or anything that you could come up. But I'm like you. I watch a lot of football games. I watched the Ravens win a crazy game today earlier, right? I just had to go watch the replay. When it's all said and done, nobody cares how you won the game. They just look at W's and losses. So a lot of the fans, I think they'll probably say the rebuttal for that is that, we have to pay attention to that so that we don't make mistakes moving forward, which I agree with. But this thing gets muddy, man. Like, you can lose a game like we did last week on like some BS. Like, had we tackled Fields at that spot, I still wake up and I'm still thinking about like, dog, if we would have just got the ball back, we'd be 3-0. And
Right.
that's the margin of winning and losing in this league. And people got to understand, like, it's not going to look pretty. And the good teams like the Chiefs, the Ravens today, they win tight matchups every single week. So this idea that you're going to come in there and steamroll professional football players, I just don't know where people even get that from. Like, like even when we went up, I told my mom, I talked to her afterwards. I said, hey, we could have put maybe 30-something, 40 points on them possibly.
Right.
And she was like, why didn't you? I was like, well, you take your foot off the pedal a little bit. You got to give them whatever. And as a result, it gave Steelers some time to come back, kick the field goal to make it look a little bit prettier. And then she was like, did Ben have a big day? I was like, not really. But I was like, if you look at the stat sheet, it's going to look good because we just let them dink and dunk at the end of the day. So I'm like, so you have to watch these football games to understand like how this game is going to go. We dominated this game just like we dominated week 1. Week 2, I felt like for the most part, the defense did everything that they had to do. I thought today they weren't as clean as they were. Remember, week 1, no penalties at home. I think that was a product of them not being, home. But Trey Hopkins had 2 big holding calls. That one before the half, I thought I was going to regret them not getting that 3 points. And then he had the other hold. Then he had the other hold in later in the game when it was a big I gotta go back and look at it.
It was like a big run or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
It was a big mix and run. Then we're talking about probably 30-something to 10. But that's how games go.
Right.
And that's why I think people need to understand is like you got to watch some of these games if you think that teams are just getting steamrolled out here. Like even whoever y'all think is the best team. I'm watching the Bucks. I just was at the bar watching the Bucks and
the Rams.
And the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks are probably without a doubt like the Warriors of the National Football League. They don't look like the Warriors when you play in football because it's so different. Like there's so many bodies, like and so many people, and so many different things that can go wrong. Like they're not just out there just trouncing, teams. Even though at the end of the game, Tom Brady is going to be Tom Brady, and the stats going to be the stats. And I just thought like I just felt really good about this game. I said 2-1 before the game even started. Like I said that all over Twitter. 2-1. Like I looked at the Steelers playing the Raiders last week. I said if we play anything like that,
anything remotely like that,
like what? I don't care if TJ Watt, his brother came out there or whatever. You might have got some hits on us or whatever, but there was no way that there. You hit it right on the hill. And I was saying this during my broadcast. It's not that they're a terrible team. They're just good with. They're okay, and their fan base is probably going to have to get used to them being 7-9, 8-8. Right. Now 8-9 or whatever, because they have to lose. Mm-hmm. They have to lose to go. You have to lose to go get yourself a Joe Burrow. And and they're not a bad team. They're just the worst team in our division, and I think it's really clear. Like they're clear cut. I know that their uniform is black and yellow, but they're clear cut. The worst team in our division. And it's very, very clear. I don't care if TJ Watt is there in that game. Their offense is terrible.
Right. No, I'm with you. That's big fact. Shout out to my man, Roddy Everlap. He gives a super chat and shows props to Jackson Carman. I think, like you said, I felt the same way. Coming into this game, a lot of people haven't watched, like you said, all of the games. As you know, we both watched the Steelers games. The last 2 weeks, I guess it's 3 weeks now, but the last 2 weeks, right? People are saying, the Steelers are sloppy and this and that. That's not anything new. That's not something that's new or breaking news or has only showed up against the Bengals. They have been a pretty sloppy team from the get-go. If you watch week 1, they were sloppy in that Bills game. The Bills just happened to be sloppy as well. If you watch them in week 2, they were sloppy. The offense is all over the place. I wasn't surprised that Ben threw a pick. I wasn't surprised when I said that before this game. Everyone was talking about the Bengals offensive line being worried about the Steelers pass rush. I was saying, no, the Steelers need to be worried about the Bengals defensive line because their offensive line is not good. I sat on here and talked with Bengals fans and all kind of people. And before the season happened, when we did positional rankings on AFC North Talk, I said that the Steelers have a worse offensive line than the Cincinnati Bengals. Their line is worse than ours.
It's arguably bottom 3 in the league.
It's one of the worst lines in all of football.
I don't know what their PFF grade is, but on paper, just assembling those guys and putting them together that fast,
right?
on paper, that's the worst line in the league. Like
Right.
to me,
I think it's between them and the Jets, honestly. Like on paper,
Right.
the Jets look better. But
and the Bears.
yeah. If you're going straight off of paper, it's definitely the Steelers.
And possibly the Bears. And possibly the Bears. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that because they got the 9 sacks today. You
Right.
could also, because you don't know what the Dolphins are going to be, but the
Right.
Dolphins, like for everybody that's saying that y'all going to get Joe Burrow killed, go look at how Tua got hurt. Like
Exactly.
it never looked like that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like people got to watch some other games, bro. Like that is super key. I think that changes our perspective a little bit. It's like
Facts.
we're watching other games. If you seen how Tua got hurt with the broken ribs, like their fan base should be like, what the hell? Like Joe was never like that. Like when Mahomes was in the Super Bowl, I was telling my man, they was like, man, their line is terrible, but they making jokes about ours. I was like, go show me a clip of Joe Burrow running around like that and just throwing the football like nah, he was cool and poised. He got his ass kicked in the Eagles game and the Steelers game last year. And I mean, we just rectified that.
Right. Nah, I'm with you. I think that we talked about it, and I just hated to see it last week because the offensive line I felt like got critiqued unfairly. You talk about week 1, only 2 sacks given up by Trey Hopkins. You talk about week 2, you could probably say Jonah is responsible for 1, Riley Reese responsible for 2. Maybe you even throw Suafilo in there, right? But even with that being said, that's still 5 sacks given up by the offensive line. There were other sacks that were given up from free rushers that we touched on. I'm not going to continue to talk about it. But in this game, I was glad that I don't even know if somebody even sneezed on Joe Burrow in this game. 1 pressure the entire game from the Steelers defensive line.
1 pressure, no hit.
People can talk about no TJ Watt and no this and that, no Highsmith. They still had Melvin Ingram, who is a very good edge rusher, still had some sacks last week. They also had Cam Hayward, who was having an elite season up until he ran into Quentin Spain and ended up on lock today. We can talk about that too, because Evan Silva wants to talk about journeyman linemen. That looked pretty damn good for a journeyman today with him locking Quentin Spain up. But let's just talk about the growth of this offensive line. I feel like we're the only ones that try to give them credit. Shout out to my man Jackson Carman today. Came in for Xavier Suafilo. I never doubted him because I never doubt anything that Willie Anderson tells me. I'm never gonna second guess whatever Willie says. And all I expected from Jackson Carman is to just come in and not do anything that made him noticeable. Now, early on, he did have a penalty, I believe. There was a stunt that they tried to use on him. But the one thing that I would say about Jackson Carman that I loved in this game is I would see several times, and Zane, you probably saw this too, they would come up to the line, and while they were making their assignments, I would look and see Jackson Carman turn around, talk to Joe Burrow and say, yep, I got this person to that person. Right. All right, I got this person. And when it came, he was in place and on point and definitely showed that acumen to, honestly, to go into this game and do what he did, I think you just keep him in there. What's the point of bringing Xavier Suafilo or whatever in there? I think
that's over.
It's over. It's over. We got, and this was the plan.
What did I harp on? I'm with you too, because I believe in Jackson Carman too, but it's based off of when we got to draft day. Remember that morning? I said, man, when we knew that the Bengals like Jackson Carman, and then that Willie got a call and whatever. Right. And from that moment on, I said, all right, then he cool. He gonna work, right?
Right.
But the plan always, and I always told James this, James Rapini, I hope you're checking this out, because he says that Chase has nothing to do with Carman.
Oh, he has everything to do with it.
In a lot of ways, he doesn't if he just goes out and he makes everybody forget about everything. But if Jackson Carman ends up being a bust or whatever, there's always going to be pessimistic Bengals guy that says, oh, we should have drafted Penis Sewell, right? So I said that with a straight face. That was so funny. And so it's always going to be that guy saying it. But I just feel like they kind of go hand in hand, and it's just a clear testament of the change in the times. Like, you can get you a legitimate ball player, a guard at the top of the draft, and it doesn't have to be the first round. Right. I think we communicated that to the fan base. That's not to say that if a stellar one is up there next year and he's sitting there right on the board, go take him. but I just felt like this is like they kind of go hand in hand because that was the play. I kept on telling you, and I think I beat it into a drum really, really bad to the point where Xavier Sulafilo comes around. My boy Jay, shout out to my man Jay, TBR Fitness and Training. He trains Xavier Sulafilo. So I started seeing stuff. I'm like, man, it's not so bad, But in the back of my head, I'm like, man, that's a high premium pick. Second round is not like some backup dude. Like, you're drafting that to start eventually if it can't start right away. And so that was one of the things. So now that he's out there and he balled, no pressures, 19 reps, no quarterback hits, no sacks allowed. Like, it's time. It's time.
It's time.
Like it's time. I mean, and that is what it is. And I kept on telling people early in the season, I think a lot of people, especially on Twitter, kept on telling me, like, Zim, why are you so pressed to have him play, like, whatever? Because I'm like, look, I understand, like, y'all want to be super positive. I'm just as positive as anybody in the world. But I will turn on this part of it. You cannot draft that high and have a guy fail because it's detriment to your football team. And that's the one thing that I did know. So it's very important that Jackson Carman hit the ground running and is a dog because he could potentially be our starting right tackle in the future when Riley Reef isn't there too. So it's very important that he's confident too. And I kept on saying this thing on Twitter saying, you guys need to put down the clipboard and get out here because it's true. Like, y'all saying this stuff on paper, like, nah, like, talent plays. And I don't care what y'all talking about, like, talent plays. And that's my whole point. Like, he's too talented to just be sitting on the bench. And I look at teams like the Steelers or whatever, even though we beat their ass today, I still respected what they've done from offensive line play in the National Football League. If they draft Jackson Carman second round, trust and believe he will start. Like
they were starting.
Like, so
they were starting undrafted cats out here this season. They were kind of wilding.
But you know that's the formula for Bengals fans that don't understand this. Y'all think that the Bengals are cheap? The Steelers don't pay people, and how they pay people? They draft guys like Deontay Johnson, and they make sure that they hit guys like early Kendrick Greens of the world, Dotsons. They make sure that they hit, and even if they don't hit, they'll get rid of them. But they want them guys to play right away, so that for the next 4 years, they don't have to pay them. And that really, really helps out their franchise a lot. That helps them out a lot.
Yeah, like you said, that's why they walked away from Pouncey. That's why they walked away from DeCastro, those contracts and stuff like that, because they drafted those young kids and threw them into the fire. I honestly feel like with Pittsburgh, when it comes to it, if you were tracking them last year, their offensive line wasn't good last year either. I always felt like it was never the same after Mike Munchak ended up leaving. They had the offensive line coach leave. They put in this new system. For me, I've been telling Steelers fans and like Bengals fans that Big Ben, the time is done. Old man Ben, we kind of had another funeral for him, I think, today with him throwing those picks. I was not surprised by him. He got hit a lot. He took chances when he felt dangerous. And it's like, these aren't those same Bengals anymore, bro. Like, the deep shots aren't going to work. The running around in the pocket, you're not going to be able to run away from these defensive linemen. It was a totally different Bengals team and Bengals defense. Got to give shouts out to Logan Wilson, who is looking like one of the top linebackers in the league right now. Let's just call it what it is after 4 interceptions in 3 games. Somebody tweeted that, like, that's just different. That's not normal, right? So Logan Wilson, big shout out to him. Big shout out to Eli Apple. He's been getting a lot. He's been catching a lot of hell within these first 2 weeks. I thought that he played solid today. Let's just say that.
Right. I thought he played good last week. Last week he played pretty good, but then he had the big penalty or whatever. This week he had a penalty. Man, he played good. He was step for step. He was step for step with Claypool before Claypool got hurt.
Right. Nah, I'm with you. I saw that. I saw them go to our boy Chris Evans early in the game. I like that.
Yes, sir.
I'm
gonna tell you on the interception. On the interception, go watch the replay on that. Chris Evans.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Chris Evans. Now that goes straight through Tyler Boyd. That's another thing. Our ops gonna tell us about Joe Burrow threw another interception, sophomore slump. Like, they don't watch the game, but if you watch that game, goes through Tyler Boyd's head, tipped up, interception, right?
Right.
Uzama's open on that. Now, I'm not here to critique, like say whatever. Like I'm not out there throwing the football, but Chris Evans is wide open on that play. Go watch that play.
I'm gonna go back and watch that. But you know, another thing I felt like that set the tone early. We don't talk about him much, and it's crazy because we love this guy. But Tyler Boyd, that first touchdown, he runs into Melvin Ingram, bounces right off of him, goes in for his first touchdown at Heinz Field. You know, he's from the area. That was major. He said before the game, this is my house, this is my crib. That's what he said. Crib. That's his crib, and he showed them whose house it is. Jamar Chase. I'm gonna let you talk about Jamar Chase. We all know about Chase. This dude is on fire. 2 touchdowns. I think it was 4 receptions, 65 yards. He's averaging 16.2 yards per target just in this game alone. 4 touchdowns on the season. Talk to us about Chase.
Draft night. I knew. I debuted my Uno chain today, and I actually got so hyped. I like hit a piece, and I think and I got to put it back on. But I debuted the Uno chain. The draft night. God is my witness. I hit my jeweler. I said, "Hey, look, I need an Uno chain." As soon as the pick was in that night, because I knew that it's going to take as much criticism. We might go this year. We might criticize coaching a lot, or the fans might criticize it. It's going to be one of our Achilles heels that I think is going to rear its head at some point. Even how he started this game, I honestly felt like they could have put way more pressure on the first drive. I was really I feel like that touchdown before the half kind of bailed him out a little bit.
Right.
But if we have dogs, if I watched I said this during the live because I invited a lot of Steelers people to come into my live today. A lot of black and yellow players, they're not really as talented as what the media would like you to believe. But I'm going to tell you, the one time when I was scared to death of them dudes, and it was the last time that we ever won there. I was there 2015. Me and my wife was just talking about it. It's the last time the Bengals won at Steelers Field. AB and Le'Veon Bell and some of the guys that they had out there or whatever were super, super talented, where I just watched them just get the ball in space. Some of the same pick plays that they try to do today, they're not able to do it when you don't have dogs. And I'm looking around the league and I'm like, these guys got these dudes, these got these dudes, you know what I'm saying? But not a shot at Billy Price or not, but some of those picks are just fear picks. You know, Drew Sample, it's not his fault he was picked in the second round because I think he'll be a solid football player. You know, for somebody by the time his 4 years is off, he'll still be in the league. He'd probably be solid. But a lot of those picks are fear picks where they don't want to go and take the chance that they took on a John Ross. That's why I've been so adamant about John Ross is a good pick in the sense of this is a person that can break through what I call the simulation or whatever. It's what they want everybody. They want us all. Even if you listen to the broadcast, they want us to just, you know, Jamar Chase scores a touchdown. The announcer is now going back over the highlights on how he thought that it was a holding or something to play before. They don't even want to show you the Jamar Chase touchdown or whatever, right? But then Najee Harris runs for a 17-yard run, and the dude goes crazy. He loses it. He thinks I thought Najee Harris scored or something, right?
Right.
But it's based on these teams, these national media outlets and stuff. They're banking on fear picks like Billy Price, Drew Sample, and things like that. Where and not to say that Penei Sewell would have been a fear pick, but it's a safe pick. I knew that there had to be something out there that we could do better than everybody else. And when I kid you not, T. Higgins will be fine. We're going to have 3 wide receivers with 1,000 yards, and it's based off of if you play fantasy football. These 3 every week should get 8 targets. When I start off the game, the way he start out, that's not enough. That's what I'm saying about Zach. You drafted to give Jamar Chase 8 targets, to give Tyler Boyd 8 targets, and T. Higgins 8 targets every single game, and that's not normal. That doesn't mean that you have to throw a whole bunch of times, but that's how you draft it. And every time that Jamar Chase gets a ball thrown his way, I'm like, yes, he should. And and a lot of people will hit me and they text me up like they'd be like, bro, I know you hype. I'm getting to the point where I'm all starting to look at these games, and when he scores, and I'll be like, yeah, I knew it. Like I knew it. Like he's that good. But I had to let everybody else see it. I had to be really, really hyped beforehand because I knew that everybody else would be like, man, I'm scared of, this might be like another John Ross thing or whatever. So I had to be like super, super, super hyped before to get everybody's attention and show you highlights. So y'all can understand the talent that is in. When he had the drops and stuff, it was like people started to waver from it. But I'm like, man, you must ain't see this dude at LSU. And then they would be like, well, that was college. I'm like, dude, them dudes running the same speed now. Like the gap on college and football and that NFL started to close because guys only play 1 year, if that. This dude did all this in his freshman and sophomore year. So I'm like, if you thought he was lit then, look how he's running away from people now. Now, I never thought he was that fast. I swear to God, I never thought, like, if you watch him on tape, he looks like he runs a 4.3 because now he's just blowing past guys like at the line of scrimmage, whereas I was just more so wanting to get separation at the line of scrimmage, get the possessions, occasionally go deep. But it's very like through 3 weeks of the season, it's very clear teams better back the hell up. Because here we come. Because imagine if T. Higgins was out there. That would have been ugly. Yeah. Now on the other flip side of things, say Deontay Johnson's out there today. It doesn't change that you still got an old quarterback that's not mobile. I think
Deontay would have helped. I honestly, after watching him, I think he's is the best receiver.
For sure.
And I knew that they would be lost without him. Like on those plays where Ben took those deep shots and it wasn't anybody running the right routes. That's like a Deontay Johnson play. But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. I just think because Ben is so not mobile anymore, and when the pocket starts to break down around him, I mean, it's not our problem, but he really holds them back like a lot. Right. Like I know his stat line like might look crazy because he's smart enough to dump it off Najee Harris. Like Najee Harris had what, like 15, 16 targets?
He had like 12 catches a day. He had to be that leading receiver.
In my fantasy league, like this dude went crazy, off the catches, but those aren't real yards. Like he's not pushing the ball downfield. Look at how the Bengals are playing though. Like we're not even scared of it, of the deep threat or whatever. Like the reason why Eli Apple's one-on-one with James Washington, they don't even think that Ben could even throw it that far. Like at this point in his career, I'm telling you, like it's a good thing for us.
It's a great thing for us. That's why, yeah,
he's super, super hampering like everything that they want to do. I promise you.
No, I'm with you. That was one of the things that I had said. For them to have all of those receivers to hold on to an older Ben Roethlisberger. They can do that, but like you said, and like we said, they are a good enough team where they'll be in a similar situation to us with Andy Dalton, where you're going to win too many games outside of the games that Andy got hurt to really get that next quarterback. That's not our problem. I mean, honestly, that's not our problem. I don't want them to get that quarterback, but it just is. It just is what it is. But with those weapons that they got with Najee Harris, and Deontay, and a healthy Juju, like those dudes are for real. So I'm just saying currently right now, in the division, they're the worst team in the division, not because of the talent, it's because of their coaching is finally off. Like the offensive coordinator. Like anybody watching my live today, I'm calling. I know Eric. Like they're running probably about 10 different formation variations off of 8 plays. Like I'm calling all their plays. And if I'm doing that at home, like anybody that's in here, like tell them I'm calling all their plays the whole time. So they're really hampered on offense, and that's a big thing. And when you start talking about like, okay, well, our defense is going to carry us, and then when you get your defense and your best corner Sutton, is it really like? I feel like a Woozier at this point is a better. You know what I'm saying? Like then we start looking at the matchups all across the field, and with them, even with them having Hayden, I felt like Chase was too much for him. He's young, way too fast. He's too strong. It's a different because a lot of people were like, oh, Hayden was the AJ, was the A, and And I keep saying this when I would always say don't compare AJ and Chase, it's because their build they're two completely different receivers with different skill sets. Chase is more of like they've been talking about. He has more of a running back build, right? That's not what you normally get in a receiver. He's shifty. He's got speed and stuff like that. He's always throwing guys off of his shoulder. It's a different kind of thing there. So, like, some people were connecting the dots and saying Hayden used to, lock up AJ, so he's just gonna lock up Chase. It's two completely different type of receivers.
It's kind of like somebody told me AJ went off
today. He did go off today. Yes. 5 receptions, 112 yards.
Yes, Sirski.
We never gave up on AJ.
That's my boy. That's my boy for life. He at some point he gonna have to come back to Paul Brown Stadium.
Fact.
And they're gonna have to show him the love that he deserves because, man, I probably wouldn't even be sitting here in front of y'all right now if it weren't for AJ.
Wasn't for him.
I really wouldn't. Like Ocho and all them. Like I feel you. Like but it's something about AJ's demeanor, just him as a person that just made me like say, because sometimes I can be too loud and boisterous, right? But AJ Green is like the person that would probably be like, Zim, you need to like chill out. And it's just so great to watch him because I just know like sometimes he does that little shoulder shrug and I'll be like, like it's the same thing, and that's a whole nother subject. But today, I mean, I think who you giving your game ball to?
Man, that's a great one. As much as I want to give it to Logan Wilson, I'm giving it to the trenches. How about that? We giving it to the trenches because I think the offensive line. I think there was a stat out there today by our man Drew on Twitter. He said that this was the first time I think in 75 years that the Steelers have not recorded a sack in the game. The Bengals broke that streak today, and then when you turn to the flip side, Cam Sample gets a sack. BJ Hill gets another sack. Trey Hendrickson, who I always believed in, got another sack. Sam Hubbard got a sack. To me, it's going to the trenches because it's a collective effort. It's not about one guy in particular. But if you were to give it to one guy, it probably is Logan Wilson, 2 interceptions. Or it's Jamar Chase.
I'm about to say, hey, look, if it's me, man, he's the ultimate. It just hasn't. I think people still in that stage where they're still trying to understand like what's going on. Right. But it took Justin Jefferson a little bit of time to wake people up too. Right. But I think after 3 weeks, I think he's put the whole league on notice. Like he demands a different type of coverage. And the Steelers are lucky that T. Higgins wasn't healthy enough to play today because that would have been ugly. That's what I mean by like when you made this shirt, like this is real. Like I think people thought we was capping, just like what I'm saying, like trying to hype it. Like for sure, there's a lot of NFL teams that have a lot of some really good wide receivers, right? And that's why I laugh at the Browns and stuff like that. I'm like, y'all got some wide receivers, but do you got 3 guys that are 20-something years old on any of these rosters? The only teams that can mess with it is the Steelers and the Cowboys. All these other teams like the Titans, the Buccaneers, teams that people really, really value their core wide receivers, they got 2 guys. They never really had 3. And today we got a 4th because even Auden Tate shows up. Even Mike Thomas shows up, right? But we're not even going to count them. Just our 3 in the prime of their careers. That could be a number 1 on any team. On any team. Tyler Boyd is the most underrated wide receiver in the National Football League. He would carry rosters. Like, he would carry a whole lot of teams. I just think because he plays in Cincinnati, we kind of look at it a little bit different. But if you go watch some of these other teams, like who are the best slot wide receivers in the league, and Tyler Boyd always competes with them numbers-wise statistically and is always there. And he's just a gamer. And I just think, like, it's so perfect that Higgins wasn't there and that he played and he did his thing. But Jamar Chase, I just think if he bails them out at the end of that half and puts the points on the board to make it so that the Steelers now are like, now they're panicking.
And bro, I'm pretty sure you probably saw this too. I saw it coming because I saw the safety creep up and I said, hold on, Minka's on the whole other side. I'm like, throw it to Chase. I'm like, the safety has crept up over the top Edmonds or whatever, I saw him move up and I was like, bro, they got to throw this to Chase. This is the deep bomb.
Right.
This is the deep bomb that they're looking for here. When you
Man, on that one, I didn't, in the sense of there were a couple favorable matchups.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to line up against the Bengals. That's why I feel like even when we come out there like on Thursday night, it's really important that Zach like scares the living daylights out of it. At the very beginning, on the first drive, I want to see them score on the first drive.
Right.
I think if you see them score on the first drive, it's going to change like a lot of stuff. But he continuously comes out there and tries to run like we're some power football team. We could run all day with Mixon. He was running like a savage all day, 5 yards a clip. Oh my God, the holes were so beautiful. Like, let's talk about the run blocking. Like, the
run blocking was good.
Like, the run blocking was the bestest look all year. And I know he had less yards today, but them holes was wide open.
If that, like you said earlier, if that Trey Hopkins one isn't called back, he easily has 100 yards. I actually thought going into this game that they should run the ball with them missing Tyson Alualu, who went down last week. Stephon Tuitt wasn't there. And like a lot of people overlook that part of it, because if you look at week one, and this is how I knew that they would be susceptible to it. Even in that Bills game, we all know the Bills don't run the ball, right? The Bills were able to get some yards against the Steelers week one. And then they go into week two and Josh Jacobs is hurt. So the Raiders aren't even thinking about running the ball. Like, Josh Jacobs was out. There's no point to do it. There was only, I think, there was less than 100 rushing yards combined in that last game between the Steelers and the Raiders. And so I was looking at it like, this is perfect for them to do both, right? Like, also be able to go out there, throw the ball considerably on this defense, especially with TJ Watt out, and establish the run. And the only issue that I had was he tried to be more – there was a moment where I think he was listening to the fan base and was like, let's be aggressive. And I think that it was, me personally, I don't think it was the right time. It was like we were up, I think, 24-10, and we got the ball back. And I'm like, run the ball with Mixon, because you got to – it was like 7 minutes. Oh, yeah,
left. Then he threw the
and I was like, run the ball with Mixon. He threw the pass. It stops the clock, and then it sets you up for 2nd and 10. So then you got to throw another pass. That doesn't go well. And so you really only got to take time off of the clock on 3rd down. And I think he did the draw play like the next play or something like that, or on 3rd down or something like that. And I just felt like he probably should have came out and did. I love the unbalanced formation that he brought in with the heavy package. I feel like we haven't seen that in years, but I think that he should have. That was an opportunity. I think he should have tried to run the ball to get some of the clock out.
I got to address this really quick, because a lot of people in the comments, of course, I knew I was going to say that. But this is the New Day stuff that I'm talking about. As Bengals fans, we're trained not to value our players higher than others. I didn't say that we had the best offensive line, right? I feel like we have the best wide receiver core, 20-something years old, like our core, right? Mm-hmm. Immediately, people say the Buccaneers. We talking about a 30-something-year-old AB and what, Scotty Miller? Like, they're telling you and they're conditioning you to where are their first-round picks, where are their second-round picks, where's the, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like what? Right. Like Evans just coming off an injury-plagued season.
And I think that's where people are getting it twisted. I think what you're saying is, yes, those guys are good in terms of
super good.
They're not in their prime. That's what you're saying. Like,
right.
It would be like
who would you start a team with? Who would you start a team with right now? Would you go draft AB or Jamar Chase?
You would draft Jamar Chase because he's younger and is closer to his peak than AB is.
Who would you draft right now? Jamar Chase or Mike Evans?
Jamar Chase. I mean,
who you know what I'm saying? So you would do that for Higgins. You would do that for Boyd too. They're in the prime of their careers. Somebody said the Browns receivers are up there. Who do they have? Landry cannot see Boyd. OBJ is coming off a torn ACL. So the same benefit of the doubt. That's what I get on here every week and say. It's like, as Bengals fans, we're trained not to value our players as much as the other team. Every team in the National Football League would die for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Boyd combo. That doesn't even exist, bro. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Like, all these teams that they're naming, like the Cardinals, they said Rondale Moore, who is a rookie, who has not done what Jamar Chase has done, AJ Green, who y'all all counted out, and Christian Kirk, and then a hurt DeAndre Hopkins. Like, Hopkins is lit and dope, right? But put these collectives versus 21-year-old, 24-year-old guys that are number ones for their team.
I think what you're saying is right now.
The only team is the Cowboys and Steelers, bro. That's the only team.
And I think that's what you're saying because
Cardinals,
they all have that in common, which is the Steelers have 3 young guys, probably, at most 25. That's what Zim is saying. He's saying for guys that are in, their prime or are super young, not close to the age of 30.
Right.
The Bengals have 3 of those guys, is what he's saying. And collectively, the only teams that have that are the Steelers, Deontay Johnson, Juju, as well as Claypool. And Dallas, where they have Cooper, they've got Michael Gallup, and they've got CeeDee Lamb. So that's what he's saying.
But think about it. When you talk about all them other teams like the Chiefs, you got to include their tight end to say that you want to compete with this. You see what I'm saying? Like there's a whole lot of, can I include Kelsey? Or there's a whole lot of, Cardinals. Yeah, but AJ Green. But y'all just told me that AJ Green was done last year. Now suddenly he goes to the Cardinals. He's better. See, that's what I'm saying as Bengals fans. Like, then they talk about the Titans or whatever. They have 2 wide receivers, and they're always hurt. And one of them's really old now. You know what I'm saying? But people overvaluing it. I think that's a little off subject, but it was a lot of comments. It was a lot of comments on that. But as a collective, sure, the Chiefs with Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, you know what I'm saying, Hardman and them guys, like, dope. But as far as wide receiver trios, it ain't another in the league.
Young receiver trio in the NFL right now.
And the only way I can prove it to y'all is let them play. Because all 3 of them will get 1,000 yards. And everybody that y'all just named, the people that just named that in the comments, none of them teams going to have 3 of their wide receivers with 1,000 yards. Or even close to it. I promise you. Scotty Miller's going to have 300. Godwin's going to have 900, maybe 1,000. Evans is going, I say Chris Evans. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a collective, they might have more yards. But they're not going to have a better wide receiver trio. That was my.
And they got a ton of weapons that they can use over there. Tom Brady is a lot of targets to go around. They still got Gronk over there. They still have OJ Howard. They've got Gio as a third. So I get where Zim is coming from when it comes to that. But let's talk about the Bengals being 2-1. This was a huge win because, as you all know, they were actually tied. They were actually first. If you went by the tiebreaker system going into this game, this adds another layer to it, right? So now they have the divisional record tiebreaker, and then they also have, as far as record against AFC, they're also winning in that because, as you know, the Baltimore Ravens lost to the Raiders. Didn't seem like it may have had huge ramifications, but that does because now their winning percentage is at 50%. And then I believe it was the Browns lost to the Chiefs. That's the AFC. So even if we're tied with those guys, we still have 2 tiebreakers. So it's almost like we have a game and a half lead on those guys because of that. Now, obviously, we play the Jaguars next week. We would like to continue to keep that going. But that's just something.
Like to keep it going. We're going to beat the doors off them boys on Thursday night.
Yes, sir. That's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm feeling. So just so you guys know, me and Zim will definitely be in the building next Thursday night for the football game. We're also going to be doing something with our sponsor, Midwest Best Barbecue. So please be sure to check it out. It's going to happen Wednesday night at 7:00. At Midwest Best Barbecue. So please be sure to check the description. Me and Zen will be there. We're going to have some folks come through. We're going to have some guests, some special live things going on. It's going to be a live show, food, drinks, all kind of stuff. So definitely be sure to come in, holler at us. If you guys do want to see us in person and meet before the game, you can definitely do that. And then we'll also be at the game working with the Bengals and Emily Parker. So we appreciate that. There also will be Commissioner Yaz, Jake and James Rapine will be there as well. Joe Goodberry.
Jake and James Rapine. But A said it the political way. If y'all want to rock with us and y'all really been, if y'all feel like we are important to the Bengals culture, I think it's really important that you guys come show out. I know a lot of other stuff is going to go on Wednesday night. I'm sure I'm going to be blasting this all over my Twitter, Instagram and stuff. But on Wednesday, we are going to be at that Midwest Barbecue. If you ever wanted to support us in any type of way, if you didn't ever send a super chat or anything like that, please come to Midwest Barbecue. It's about 15 minutes from the stadium. It's in Loveland. Great people, great food, great drinks, family friendly. I'm gonna be on my best behavior, I promise. But I really, but I really think you guys should come out there and come hang with us. We're gonna do a live show. So every time that you guys have ever commented on there, I'm gonna give people an opportunity to talk directly into the mic. And you can look me right in my eyes and tell me about who you think is the best wide receiver core or whatever you want to talk about.
Right, facts. And we'll have all kind of
this is your
coupons
chance
and stuff like that too. So come and holler at us. We got the oranges and new black coupons. We might have potentially some shirts and some merch and do some giveaways or something like that. So please be sure to check us out. But Zim, we gotta leave this and we gotta get out of here with a yes, Sirski.
Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me